Can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up? I can hear you now.
I just had a quick question for you.
Yeah, what up?
So I don't want to actually have a self-defense conversation with you right now.
Okay.
I'm just like curious about the meta, what's going on here meta-wise, if that's all right.
What meta-wise?
Like, did my conversation with you make you think at all, or did you feel uncomfortable by some of the positions that you took, or what is like sort of prompting this?
Well, it's a challenging conversation when you start to push the edges, so sometimes it's good to just write stuff down and formalize it. Like I've done this, usually I do this off stream. I've done this like abortion stuff in the past or other things. And then it also helps for me to have a fully ironed out position. Something that I'll also do if I'm preparing for debates is I need aggressive questions to ask too. Oftentimes in conversations where I feel like I've defended my position adequately, it feels like a loss because I'm on the defense the whole time and I can't push you a lot. Like, do you think people should be allowed to infinitely steal? What if somebody's like, I should theoretically be, because you can make me bite the bullets in a lot of challenging hypotheticals. If somebody tries to step on a piece of grass and you've told them no and you've given them proper notice, can you then kill somebody for stepping on a piece of grass? And it's like, well, yeah, I guess you could in my world. And then I have to bite an uncomfortable bullet. But like, I should theoretically be able to ask you, you acknowledge, right, that in almost every ethical position you take, there's going to be some uncomfortable bullets you have to bite, probably.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I think so. I think so.
Like felons voting, I think, is something that most people should probably be okay with, right? Do you agree with that or no?
Felons voting, people should be okay with that?
Yeah, I think you should probably be able to vote if you're a felon, right? That's pretty crazy, I think. But like
the
idea of like, you know, do you really think some guy that like raped 2 children and then murdered their parents, like this guy should have as much a say in how society is ran as you? Like this guy with no moral compass is now also deciding our laws. This guy that might not pay taxes, that don't, right? Like I can like that's an uncomfortable bullet to bite, but like, yeah.
Well, here's how I think that's a really good example because it draws out something that I think that you should pay attention to when we have a conversation about self-defense, which is I would look towards the overall system and whether or not that system is moral versus any particular case. I think what you're planning to do is you're planning to take isolated hypotheticals, and I might even grant some of them and say, you know, this one in a perfect world without a society where it's just 2 people on an island, what do I think in that situation? But I would encourage you to think broadly about like, well, what system overall on average, what self-defense law that we put in place produces the results that you think are good or in some ways intuitive.
I never thought about that before. I usually only think of like a hyper specific application of an instance, and I never think of like how it would affect all of society overall. So I'll definitely keep
you're being fucking sarcastic.
Yeah, I'm being fucking sarcastic. Thanks, gameplay student, for the tier 1 sub. Yeah, I think that first you iron out the individual applied principle, and then you try to see how it plays out broadly in society. This is how you defeat a lot of silly utilitarian principles where somebody's like, you know, can you kill 1 person to save 5 people? Like, chances are you generally, maybe you probably should, but like when you generalize that rule to society, hospitals don't work because if anybody goes in, then a doctor should theoretically be morally compelled to kill you to harvest your organs to save people.
Well, that's kind of how that's how I would approach like the felons voting question. The answer being like, yeah, in a perfect society, we would want to be very discriminatory about who gets to vote.
Thank you for the 20 gifted subs.
Being able to vote. Are you okay?
Yeah, what happened? What's wrong?
Oh, I don't know. There was like a little noise. Okay, though.
Oh, sorry. I muted real quick. Somebody gifted 20 subs and I thanked him. You said in a society where felons are voting. Go ahead.
Yeah, like in a society where it would be optimal, we don't want dumb people voting, right? You would agree with that.
Well, I wouldn't, but I know what you mean.
No, but like optimally, you don't want people who are, if it were really the case that you were able to perfectly discriminate who has the best ideas and who has the worst ideas, right? But the truth is we don't trust people in power enough to make those calls. Okay. Or do you not agree with that even in principle?
I'd have to think. I don't think I agree with that even in principle, because the idea there being that like smart people know how to vote for the best society for all of us might not necessarily be true. Smart people might vote in their own interests and dumb people might vote in their own interests. And there's 10 million smart people and 290 million dumb people. It's probably not very morally justifiable for the 10 million smart people to be the only ones allowed to vote, right?
How about like you have a group of 20 people who truly are, you know, these are the most moral people who are going to produce the results that you want for the most amount of people. However you define morality, these people will vote most in accord with that. Surely you'd want them voting as opposed to the general population, which is something lower than that.
Well, if you're talking about like moral, you're saying like if I could figure out like how to objectively measure like the moral standings of all these people?
Yeah, like if you could isolate the smartest, most ethically, ethically calibrated people who are taking all the considerations truly for the betterment of society. It's just like the same idea of having a benevolent dictator.
Now you guys can shit on white names.
Would be able to enact things much
I
quicker,
guess
right?
hypothetically there is some way to discriminate in voting that would probably turn for a better society, right? For sure.
Yeah. So when we are dealing with, but the reason why we are totally against that is that it never works out that way, and the people always, there's always corruption. We don't trust the people in power, and so the system, even though like theoretically you can think of situations in which that would be the best system, it doesn't work out that way in real life. And I would posit to you that even if you give me a case where it's undeniably true that killing someone in self-defense for
Christopher, thanks for 10 gifted subs.
High level, high threshold, high value property related stuff, I'm sure you're gonna be able to find cases that'll work for that. I think your burden is to prove that rule produces good results.
Yeah, obviously. That's why I'm a rule utilitarian and not an act utilitarian. Yeah.
But like the way that you described your rule before, I don't know if that made you feel a little uncomfortable when you said like the tire thing, right? That you could shoot someone in self-defense for the first time that they shoot a
Bang
top
out
or they
940.
scratch your tire, because it's just assumed that you're...
Yeah, but I understand that. But like in my rule,
your rule needs to work for Mr. Mutin's. Your rule needs to work for Dan's. Your rule needs to work for Darius's. Then it needs to work for not just for Destiny's. It needs to work for...
I understand that.
Yeah.
But for my rule, I'm more comfortable in my world where people are infinitely killing people that are slashing their tires than your world where people are infinitely slashing tires of innocent people. Like that's an easy buy for me.
I would say that like you, in a world in which we increase it just needs to deal with the facts of the real world. If you increase the allowability of deadly self-defense for property related stuff, what are you more likely to see? Unlimited related property damage that goes on and on and on, in the other way around, or are you more likely to see people shooting others when it's not justified?
Well, what are you more likely to see in a world where any self-defense is justified? We can go up to Canada where I believe you're not allowed to shoot somebody even if they're breaking into your house. There's going to be some conflict here where at some point it's not only going to be like a consequential position. There's going to be a little bit of like principle that's going to come in here too, right? So like for instance, like we could argue over like freedom of speech, right? Freedom of speech undeniably carries some violent cost with it. January 6th is a good example of that. But we accept that principle trade-off for having freedom of speech. Right to self-defense almost assuredly probably increases the amount of overall violence, I would imagine, probably because of how many more people are going to be buying guns, because of how many more criminals now are going to be buying guns, because homeowners have guns, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't know if we would say a person is now compelled to suffer at the hands of an aggressor because of some overall merits for society, right? That's what I would say. But
no matter the cost.
Well, no, hold on. Not no matter the cost. Okay. If my rules went into place and we turned into the Wild West where it's like fucking neighbors who are having shootouts every single day, I don't think that would happen though. It hasn't happened in the United States, even though our self-defense laws are insanely more aggressive than up in Canada, right? We have a history of gun violence here, but most of it is gang related. It's not like homeowners shooting across the streets, killing other homeowners, although they do sometimes. We saw that the snow guy. Did you ever see that video?
No.
A guy got mad at his neighbors and they had a disagreement over like plowing their driveway, and he got a rifle and he murdered both of them. Super murdered them.
That,
yeah, he ultra murdered them.
But what I mean is, what I think I'll argue when we have the discussion is that the typical rule, the normal rule in the United States, is that there usually is a nexus with serious bodily injury or death.
Sure.
And that your rule would be something that's different.
Maybe.
And
yeah, we'll find out. Okay. I'll write. I write it down. Okay.
What made you? I just want to be. Let's just be real right now. I'll be real with you. You be real with me. Did any of the bullets that you bit make you feel uncomfortable?
No, not at all. But I'm like a huge self-defense cuck. Like when I write rules for self-defense, my intuitions are being curbed. Like, I don't know what it is, if it's an upbringing or if I'm a cuck or whatever, but I feel like stealing from somebody is in some cases worse than attacking them. Like I hate motherfuckers that steal shit. And if there was a way to like guarantee sentries and shit that would literally shoot and murder people for breaking people's cars and breaking people's steal shit, I have no sympathy. It is one of the things I hate more. Crimes against other people in society. Like if you're talking about like robbing a Walmart or CVS, you shouldn't do that either. But people breaking into people's cars, people breaking into people's houses and stealing shit, in my mind, just because of my history with it, it is one of the worst possible fucking things you can do. And I have no sympathy. So, but so when
my bad. Go ahead. Are your rules going to distinguish between? Oh, do you want me to stop?
No, go.
Are your rules going to distinguish between like the corporate identity of someone, like who owns
Maybe
something?
We'll get there. I'll write it out. We'll get into IP laws and all that fun abstract stuff.
Yeah. I think that you should get into, because there are a lot of types of like property related crimes, blatant breach of contracts, blatant whatever misappropriations of likenesses, or remember we were having a big discussion about copyright stuff. Like imagine some blatant rip off in the copyright space.
Yeah, somebody that runs to publish a book right before you do. Yeah,
because it sounds like the value, you're not going to put much stake in. You don't really care if it's really valuable or almost valueless in your rule, right? And that seems a little problematic.
Well, man, I haven't even started writing this down yet, so I don't know. Okay. Now you're fleshing out. Yeah, geez.
Oh, my bad. These are just the kind of things that I think that I'm sure that
I'm aware. Okay. I'm not a fucking retard. Like, it's not going to be like kill people when they attack you. Yeah, obviously there's a whole bunch of externalities need to be considered. Yeah.
Okay. All right, bro. I'll leave you to it. I just wanted to drop in and ask you. And if I go back and if I'm an autist and I look at all of the hypotheticals that I've ever presented you and all the bullets you've ever bit, are you confident you'll accept all of them at the end of it, or do you want me to give you like a blank slate moving forward and not reference them?
You can reference them if I want, or if you want. But my guess is going to be is that when I start to iron these out and like write down solid rules for this, there's probably going to be some edge cases that I maybe change my mind on a little bit. Maybe it's possible, but I don't know yet. Okay. So it might be like 3 blades of grass.
So if we come down to it and I have timestamps for every bullet every bit, now it's a little bit unfair, and I wouldn't do that in the middle of the debate. But like, if we were to hash it out near the end and be like, well, do you still believe this? Do you think that would be fair for me, or do you think that that's kind of in poor taste?
I mean, you could, I guess, but I don't know if, yeah.
I'll leave you to it. Have fun.
Be careful, babe.
Yeah. Bye bye.